Welcome into Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. I'm Meghan Payton. It's our mailbag show today. We are going to answer all of the questions that you guys had for us. But first, hey, it's Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve to all of you guys here at Seahawks Today. I hope you guys have a fantastic holiday, and let's go share the Christmas spirit in the comments today. This is our pinned comment for today's show, is going and wishing everyone a Merry Christmas. I'm definitely grateful for all of you guys here at Seahawks Today that keep tuning in to our channel. All right, let's get into it. Our Week 16 mailbag show starts off with a question from Russ Lover. Hashtag Seahawks. Has Russ stopped trying because he's going to leave next year? This has been a question that I've seen circulating Twitter. I've seen Seahawks fans question Russ's performance and, just his ability to, give it 100%. And for me, I want to buy into it, but it's so hard for me to believe that. Russell Wilson is such a competitive guy. I mean, if you are a quarterback in this league, especially an extremely successful quarterback like Russell Wilson, it's hard for me to think that you wouldn't be giving it 100%. Now, I've seen what some people are saying, meaning that he's not going to maybe run as much because he's not going to risk getting injured, because he's already thinking about next year. He's going to be somewhere else. Why is he going to get hurt? We don't even know if that's true. We don't know if Russell Wilson's going to be in Seattle or not. And also, I just don't think that he has the capability to just turn it off. Russell Wilson is showing emotion. I think that he is out there looking to play hard. And I know that his stats aren't like what they have been in the past few years. I mean, 2021, definitely not his best year at 65.4 completion percentage, 2,458 yards so far, 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. But he's just too competitive to not give it 100%. I'm going to stand by that. Maybe that's being naive. Maybe that's trying to find the good in a bad situation. I think Russell Wilson is struggling. I don't think maybe he never physically got back from the injury. I don't necessarily think it's that, though. I think mentally he's kind of thrown. He's not used to losing, and he's going to have to work and change some things during this offseason to improve and be the quarterback that we know he can be, because we've seen it so many years in a row. But I refuse to believe that Russell Wilson is not giving it 100%, but maybe I'm crazy. All right, this is going to be a topic we keep talking about, but our next question is kind of regarding the same thing. Tulp Fiction, I like that name, says, after nearly a decade of playoffs, winning seasons, the Hawks are done. Thanks Russ and everyone. Looking forward to seeing a rebuild. What would this look like? Hashtag Seahawks. Okay, so as we talk about 2022, we talk about whether or not this is going to be a rebuild year. I can see it being a rebuild year, but I think it's going to be one or the other. It's either going to be head coach Pete Carroll or Russell Wilson. Now, maybe they both end up back in Seattle and nothing really changes. Maybe they just switch up the roster, but I do think that something big is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be Russell Wilson requesting a trade or if it's going to be Pete Carroll. I don't think Pete Carroll's getting fired. I've said that before. I think at most he would retire. He is 70 years old. He's been in this league for a long time. He's been in Seattle since 2010. Russell Wilson's been obviously with Seattle since 2012. I do think that someone has to go, though. I might be a little bit, this might be a bull point. Maybe they both end up back there. But for fun, let's say one of them leaves. Who would you want back in Seattle between Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson? Who are you sticking with? Type RW if you like Russell Wilson as your quarterback, or type PC if you want Pete Carroll as your coach. All right, this next question is a Twitter question. I've told you guys this before. You have a couple options for future mailbag shows. You can always use hashtag Seahawks in the comments on YouTube. Get your questions in, or go to @MeghanPayton7 on Twitter. Ask me whatever you'd like. We go through all of these, and then we pick our favorite ones. All right, this one's coming in from another fat guy. It always gets me. He says, @MeghanPayton7, @what's going Downey, has John Reid met the criteria for the Seahawks to send a draft pick to Houston? All right, so let me just help you guys out here, because you might be a little bit confused. Who's John Reid? You might be saying. John Reid is a cornerback for the Seahawks. We haven't seen much of him, but we did see him this past week when Bless Austin got hurt. So DJ Reed was out, obviously, with COVID. Then Bless Austin got hurt. Then John Reid came in for a little bit before Austin returned. So what happened with John Reid prior to the start of the season was that the Texans, they were going to waive him. They were going to cut him. They didn't want him on the roster, but they do this a lot. This is very typical in the NFL. They see if anyone would maybe want to get a conditional, trade them for a conditional draft pick, meaning that there would have to be certain requirements that a player would have to reach in order for a team to send a draft pick. So the Seahawks agree to this. They agree on a 7th round conditional pick in 2023. Now, the Seahawks actually waived John Reid like 7 days after doing this. Then they bring him back into the practice squad. Then they activate him. All right, so now we're on board with what happened. So let me kind of explain the question. It's what's John Reid's performance been like? Is it good enough? Well, it doesn't really matter. The Texans trade, like I said, for a 2023 pick in the 7th round. John Reid doesn't have to perform well. He doesn't have to perform even pretty well. It doesn't matter. The trade specifically was how many games John Reid is going to play in. Now he's played 4 games, but he's been active for over 6. Therefore, the Seahawks are going to be giving Texans that 7th round pick. Now, this again isn't until 2023. Normally, conditional picks work out in the favor of the team that's trading for them. It's just typically how it goes, and it's normally obviously a later round pick. There's the clarification on John Reid. Now I've got some exciting news for you guys. If you like Seahawks gear, specifically Seahawks hats, these are all licensed Seahawks gear. You go to chatsports.com/Seahawks hat. They are on great sales right now. You've got the cool beanies, different hat options. I understand the Seahawks season isn't going well, but if you're a true fan, you will continue to rep the Seahawks. And they've got some great stuff over at Fanatics. So make sure you go to chatsports.com/Seahawks hats. Take advantage of this sale because I'm sure it will not be around long. All right, moving into our next question. This one's a little bit longer. I actually didn't write this whole thing because it would have taken an hour to read it. So Dale Nuttall writes, could we just look forward to next season? Will Wilson still be with us till retirement? Get rid of coaching staff and build a better one with our stars and build a team around the stars and not the coaching. We still need DK Metcalf. He needs to be used better or else we will lose interest his interest in this team. And I don't want that. All right, Dale goes on, talks about this a little bit more, but essentially I'm going to stick on the topic of DK Metcalf because we've talked Russell Wilson and we haven't talked much about DK Metcalf's emotion and how he's feeling throughout this season. Metcalf's not happy. I'll tell you that right now. There's no way DK Metcalf is satisfied right now. Do you blame him? I mean, I'd say there's partially some blame that DK Metcalf could take on just because there has to be a level of controlling your emotions, but I understand his frustration. Russell Wilson has definitely missed him a few times, and obviously in this past week against the Rams, he was wide open. He was beating Jalen Ramsey, and so that's very irritating because you're putting all this work in and you're just not connecting with your quarterback, and it's your quarterback's fault. So I do understand DK Metcalf's frustration. This leads to the question of, hey, do you think Metcalf could maybe request a trade? He signed a 4-year, $4.58 million contract in 2019, obviously, when he came into the league. He will become an unrestricted free agent in 2023. Now, of course, he could request a trade. Something could happen where he leaves Seattle earlier. I don't think he's going to, do that. I think he is going to be with the Seahawks next year. But I will say this, if nothing changes and he has a season like he had this year, I don't think he's coming back to Seattle in 2023. And the Seahawks want a guy like DK Metcalf. He's young, he's good. And yes, he hasn't been maybe as great as he has, maybe last year, but DK Metcalf is a top wide receiver. Tyler Lockett, obviously another great guy that they have on their team. Hopefully Lockett will be back this week so we can see him missing last week, obviously due to COVID-19. Freddie Swain, but you look at this wide receiver room. One of the Seahawks' best traits is that they've got 2 fantastic receivers in Lockett and Metcalf. I would hate to see Seattle lose a guy like DK because he's unhappy. Now, he does have to, at some point, decide how much am I going to show of my emotion. It is his responsibility to kind of keep that in check, I'd say. But I do see, he's had 62 receptions this year, 805 yards and 8 touchdowns. I understand he's angry, but I still think he needs to control it a little bit. So I'll ask you guys this. Do you blame DK Metcalf for being upset? Go to the comments right now, and if you say, hey, hold it together, DK, type Y for yes, or if you're saying it's totally understandable and it's very fair, you can type N for no.